As time goes on, I find myself focusing more and more on film, both through my personal love of movies and cinema, and with social media platforms pushing video content more. I find myself in a position where I need a camera which can capture great photography as well as capturing really good video as well. And this is where the Fujifilm X-T5 comes in. Since its release, it's been my go-to camera whether I'm traveling or if I'm doing street photography here in London. For the longest time, I'll travel with multiple cameras, with each having strong points in either photography or video. But with the X-T5, I'm able to trim down the amount of gear I travel with, and recently when I went to Paris, this was the only camera I brought. Photography first was the tagline Fujifilm used when they launched the X-T5, and on the face of it, with its retro design, this camera does look like one. But for me, the Fujifilm X-T5 actually works best as a hybrid camera, which you'll use to capture video and photography all inside this small lightweight body. Now on the photography side of things, as with pretty much all of Fujifilm's X-series cameras, the X-T5 takes great photos. There's no surprise there. When it comes to image quality, colors and so on, Fujifilm are probably up there among the best. On the video front, I've been capturing some of my favorite video to date with the X-T5, and best of all, it doesn't feel like I'm making a compromise on either my photography or video when I use this camera. The way I approach film is the same way I approach my photography. In fact, if you look at the scenes I take, they're often long versions of photos I take. So it's a bit of a mix between street photography and film. Now fortunately, with the X-T5, there's a switch on the top dial to go from photo to video mode. However, this alone has its issues, as you need to reset the settings each time. For instance, if I'm doing street photography, I'll often have my shutter speed at a 200th of a second or maybe higher. Whereas if I'm recording video, I'm usually shooting at 25 frames a second, which means my shutter speed needs to be at a 50th of a second. Now, if I need to change my settings each time I go from photo to video mode, it's going to lead to me missing scenes, missing important moments, and in all, it's going to make my experience both capturing photos and video less enjoyable. Now this brings me on to the movie optimized mode setting, which you can switch on from the menu. With this option selected, your camera separates the photography settings from your video settings. So with this option selected, you'll use the dials at the top, your aperturing as normal when you're doing photography, but when you switch into video mode, the camera ignores those settings, remembers your video settings, and you're able to use the dial at the front and the dial at the back to change your ISO, shutter speed and f-stop for video. As an example, I'm walking around Paris, I see a shot I like, I take some photos of it, I quickly switch into movie mode and I'm already ready to record my video. I don't have to change my settings, I don't have to change the shutter speed, the ISO, my aperture or anything. The camera has remembered my video settings and I'm able to record straight away. And after that, once I've recorded my video, I switch back into photography mode and within a second I'm back to doing street photography. And it's just a good example of how this one camera is allowing me to capture all the photos I want and capture interesting video without compromising one or the other. Now diving a little deeper into the settings, I record all of my video on 10-bit with Fujifilm's latest log profile F-Log 2. Shooting with F-Log is a bit like capturing your photos in RAW format. It just means you have more dynamic range when it comes to editing your files in post. That said, if I'm working on a project and I need to deliver the footage really quickly, I'm more than happy to use Fujifilm's Eterna profile. It's flat enough where in post I can make some changes, but it has enough color and detail in there where if I need to deliver it as it is, it's more than good enough. When it comes to photography, I'm shooting all of my photographs in RAW. As I said with the video, shooting in RAW just gives you more dynamic range and freedom to edit the photos in post. The Fujifilm film simulations are really good. If you're looking just to capture photos and you don't want to worry about or think about editing in post, then shooting with the Fujifilm film simulations is a great option. When it comes to how I edit my video, I do all of my cutting and organizing on Final Cut, and then I send the timeline over to DaVinci Studio where I edit the colors and grade the footage. When it comes to editing my photography, I always use Adobe Lightroom. I do have some presets on there, bit of a shameless plug. Those are kind of the starting points for all of my edits. And what I find is, one, it saves me time, and two, it kind of gives all of my photos a more of a uniform look because they all have a similar, if not the same starting point. So yeah, that's an overview of how I use my X-T5 for my photography and video. I should note you don't necessarily need an X-T5 for this. Fujifilm's older, cheaper X-T4 will pretty much give you the same results, and almost all the other camera manufacturers have cameras which again can give you similar, if not the same results. If you have any questions on how I use my X-T5, please drop those in the comments down below, or if you have any tips of your own when it comes to using the X-T5 both for video and photography together, please drop those down below. As always, a huge thanks for watching this episode, and I'll catch you in the next one.